Thank you for tuning in to my channel, Christ Centered Mental Health. My name is David Lee Chu Sarche. This is my video series, His Strength and Weakness, where I interview a fellow Christian believer about their struggle with mental illness and maintaining faith in God. My guest today is Amber. Would you like to tell us briefly about yourself and more specifically about what your mental illness is and what your experience with medication?
Hello, my name is Amber. I am 27 years old. I am a Christian, and I suffer from borderline personality disorder. I do take medication. I take mood stabilizers and anti-anxiety medications. On days where I'm not doing so well, I do take also antipsychotics.
So, for the people who aren't familiar with psychology, can you please explain what borderline personality disorder is in your own words?
So a lot of people are familiar with the bipolar disorder, and that's the easiest one to compare it to. People who are bipolar, they have series of ups and downs throughout the year that can affect how they live their life. I go through series of ups and downs every single day. I will go through periods of ecstasy all the way to being suicidal in the entire course of a day. I also have major self-esteem issues, abandonment issues, and I tend to split, or basically I see the world in black and white. It's something that I struggle heavily with. Something's either good or it's really, really bad.
You go from extremes.
Yes, I go through extremes. That's all borderline personality disorder is. It is an inability to control your emotions in a period of extreme.
The next question is, when were you diagnosed and how did you react?
I was actually diagnosed with several different illnesses before I met a psychologist who would take the time to work with me and really figure it out. As a child, I was diagnosed with depression and ADHD. Later on, as a young adult, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And then just recently, about a year and a half ago, I was given the diagnosis of borderline personality disorder. I knew for a while that that's what I had. I could not find someone who would work with me when I told them that I thought I was borderline, because it is a difficult illness to treat, and a lot of people don't want to work with it. So it took me a while to get a proper diagnosis.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that seems to be the case with certain illnesses. It takes a while to find the right one for you.
Yeah,
I think it
a
has.
good therapist for you.
Yeah, exactly. You have to have a good therapist, a good psychiatrist, and it's just hard to find a good one though. Would
It
don't you
is.
think?
It is.
Um, how did your friends and family react?
I'm not really super close to my family anymore. It's
Oh,
very safe and easy to say that my early childhood and my early adulthood were a leading cause of my disorder. Borderline personality disorder is one of those disorders that are a combination of the right genes, but also a very bad childhood. So I'm not close to a lot of my family. A lot of my friends are just happy I'm getting help.
yeah. So
They're
would you say your
happy
friends
that
have
I
been?
found something that's going to help.
Yeah, I was gonna say, would you say that your friends have been your support group?
My friends, yes, mainly them. And recently, the church I've started attending, they've been a big
Oh,
part of it.
nice. When did you become a Christian?
I really became a Christian when I was 23. I was raised as a Christian, but um, that all ties into me not going to such a good church as a child. It was more like a cult than it was a church, and it pushed me
Oh,
away from Christianity for a very long time. It took me until I was 23 to come back.
Oh wow. Um, how has your faith helped you in dealing with your illness?
So, like I said, bipolar disorder or borderline personality disorder is all about extremes. There are extreme mood
Yeah.
swings, extreme changes. A big part of that is recognizing that even though I am mentally ill, it can still be sinful. It is sinful to snap out on other people. It is sinful to be angry towards everyone I meet. It is sinful to, I think it is, to see the world in black and white because I am not God and I don't decide whether it's good or bad. And that is something that I'm constantly fighting myself on.
I like that you say that because, like, a lot of times people think people with mental illnesses are just making up an excuse to have bad behavior. And what I hear you saying is that even though you're mentally ill, you still can be held responsible for what you do and say.
I do believe that. I believe that to a certain extent, you can be held responsible. Like, I can't be responsible for when I get anxious. I can't be
Yeah.
responsible for when I have a mood swing. But I can be responsible about how I handle that. I think there are very few mental illnesses where there's the exception, like schizophrenia is something that cannot be controlled, or severe autism, things
Yeah.
like that. There are exceptions to it, but I do believe for the most part, you can definitely be held accountable for how you act.
Yeah. Um, does taking medication display a lack of trust in God? Why or why not?
Um, well, when people get cancer, they get chemotherapy. When someone breaks a leg, they go to the doctor, they get pain medication. When someone has high blood pressure, they take medication to help. Diabetes, high cholesterol. The brain is an organ just like everything else in the body. And just like everything else in the body, it can malfunction. There's nothing wrong with getting help when you're unable to balance that. Just like with diabetes or high blood pressure, you try diets to help get it down, but sometimes you need that extra help.
That's true. I like that you make that. I like that you make that correlation between people who suffer with mental illness and taking medication, and people who get cancer having to go through chemotherapy. I think that's a good comparison.
You can still trust in God, but you can also have common sense enough to help yourself.
Yeah,
He gave people these brilliant brains. He supplied us with the plants that these brilliant brains can turn into medications to help people with. I think even it's sinful to not go for that help.
yeah,
Say, you know you're sick, you know you're dying, you know you could save yourself, but you choose not to.
yeah.
I think
It's actually very
that's,
prideful. It's actually very prideful to choose not to.
it is. It's very arrogant. There's nothing anywhere in the Bible that says not to seek help and not to get
That's
better.
true. That's true. Uh, what is something you wished other Christians understood about mental illness?
Mental illness, some of the reactions are sinful. If I go out, I yell at you, I curse at you, that's sin. If I am anxious, if I am depressed, if I need encouragement, that is not sin. The mental illness itself is not sin. I got told so often as a younger child that my depression was because I sinned too much. Sure, depression itself is a sin. So I just wish people
Yeah,
understood that more. I'm not making the choice to be depressed. I'd rather not be.
yeah, exactly.
I don't think
Yeah,
I've
I
ever
get
met
that.
anybody who is willingly depressed.
There's no one willingly depressed. The thing I really get mad about is when people say, "Oh, you're demon possessed."
I've
Like,
heard that. Or like people who are schizophrenic or have more severe disorders. It's not real, it's demon possession. And I was like, okay, so how do you explain people who have less severe forms of schizophrenia, who can function fully? Are they mildly demonly possessed? Like, it doesn't,
yeah, well, it doesn't
it
make any
makes no sense.
sense. Um, how can the body of Christ become more involved in helping those who struggle with mental illness?
I think that understanding that just like the body, the brain can get sick. And instead of pushing, and this isn't a call, by the way, to every single Christian or every single church. I understand there might be more compassionate ones than the one I grew up in, or some of the ones that I've been to. But understanding that mental illness is very, very real. It's not satanic. It's not demon possession, and there are people who need love, just like somebody who's sick needs love and prayer. I feel like mental illness is really overlooked in the church and said, just pray about it, talk to God about it, it'll be okay. But sometimes people are truly not okay. I also dislike the fact that I feel like in the recent years there's been more of Christians paying attention to mental illness. I also feel like that's only happened because there have been so many Christian pastors commit suicide. And I dislike the fact that it's taken people killing themselves for the church to understand that mental illness is serious. And it should be treated like any other illness that needs to be helped.
They shouldn't just be paying attention to it because of some pastors. There's a big deal if anybody kills themselves.
Yes.
I didn't know about that. There's been a lot of pastors.
It's been, it happened within the Reformed community too. I think it was about 2 years ago that one of the pastors of a church, I think one of the mega churches, committed suicide. And I feel like ever since then, especially among Reformed Christianity, there's such a notice to mental health. I feel like, and no judging for other denominations, but I feel like certain denominations tend to see it as the more you pray, the better you're going to get. Whereas there are certain ones that understand that it's an illness and people need help.
It's like, what's so funny about that is, like, they say the more you pray, the better you'll get. If you try telling that to someone who's suffering with cancer to just pray about it and their cancer will go away, people will easily be able to tell that that's false. But for some reason, when it comes to mental illness, they don't see it like that.
No, you can pray, and get even more depressed because you feel like your prayers aren't getting answered when the people you went to church with told you that's what would happen. Not only is it wrong to say that to somebody, I believe it's leading them astray. I do think it's sinful to say that to somebody. Just pray it away. That's just not how it works. And it could be God's will for you to be mentally ill. You and me right now, we're here. We're sharing our testimonies. We're talking to people. Maybe that's why we're mentally ill.
Maybe.
Pray the mentally ill.
It's all for God's glory. I actually did a video a while back where I talked about John chapter 9 and how Jesus the disciples asked Jesus who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind. And Jesus said it wasn't neither this man nor his parents' sin, but he was born blind for the glory of God. No.
And so I think that the church needs to understand, just like I said, whatever happens, it happens for the glory of God, and nothing happens that he doesn't know.
Exactly. I agree with that. What's the next question? How can Christians? This goes with something you said earlier. It says, how can Christians avoid hurting those women or those who suffer from mental illness?
And just like it goes into earlier, not telling them, okay, there's a fine line that I think is frequently missed. It is okay to help someone who is stumbling. If I lash out on you because my mood swings are going up and down and back and forth, and I'm angry and I'm doing that thing where I judge the world and see it in black and white, that is sin. I need to be called out on it. If I'm anxious or if I'm depressed and I cannot control it, it is something that I cannot stop. It's not, you don't have to tell me I'm not praying hard enough or that I'm sinning by having a mental illness. There's a line between recognizing what is sin and what is a symptom. Some of the symptoms can be sins, but not all of them are.
Yeah. I like that you make that distinction. I don't think I've ever heard anybody make that distinction before.
So some of the more common symptoms of my disorder that I've managed to work with really well and have had success in therapy on is impulsivity. And that was one of the main keys for my doctors determining my mental disorder. And before I was saved, I was extremely sexually active with anyone and anything. I had a problem handling money. I did drugs. I drank excessively. And those are things that are sinful, but that impulsivity is also a symptom of my mental illness. And that's when I was like, okay, look, something's bad, some things I can't control. But that's, oh, I closed you. Okay, can you see me?
Oh, yeah, I can see you.
Okay, I can't see me. I don't know if it's on. You can control certain aspects of your life.
That's true. Can you see yourself now?
Not long after getting saved.
Yeah, that makes sense. What is the cause of mental illness and what's the purpose behind it, in your opinion?
The cause of mental illness is the cause of disease, the cause of death, the cause of everything wrong in this world, and it is based off of the very first sin committed by Adam thousands and thousands of years ago. The world
is
died
the purpose
at that
behind
instant. The purpose? The same reason humans exist. The flowers grow, the sun shines, it glorifies God in some way. There's some way that it works for the good of God. Sometimes I don't remember that. I'm really upset.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I want it all to
I
be
get
over.
that.
But
Yeah.
you got to work with it.
What is your thoughts on Christian counseling versus secular counseling?
There is such, and I've been to both. There's such a big difference in the approach of how to treat and what mental illness really is. One of my goals when I started therapy was to determine what is sinful, what is wrong, what can I control, what can I fix. Now, my mental illness is different than most. I can't treat mine with medication. I can only help the symptoms. The only way to treat it is through intense therapy. So the goals of borderline therapy are similar all around. Get to recognize when I'm lashing out, when I'm changing, when I'm splitting, when I'm overreacting. But for other mental illnesses, it's not quite the same. Take depression, for instance. It's not frequently taught that, you should pray to God, you should seek guidance, you should go to church, take your medication. Instead, it's taught, do what makes you happy. Go shopping, go smoke some weed, go party with your friends at 12 in the afternoon. It's based on selfishness. And I think that's why you'll notice a lot of people in therapy don't get better, because they're trying to fix themselves while they're broken instead of looking for something else to fix them.
Yeah, that's true. I've never been to a Christian counselor, but I imagine it's a lot like what you just described. Like, I don't. The only kind of counselors I've been to have been secular counselors.
No,
I imagine it's.
I actually don't have any Christian therapists in my area. I have to teleconference with one who works in Virginia. It's
Oh
hard to
wow.
find one.
Okay. Yeah. The only Christian counselors I'm familiar with are what's called nuthetic counselors. I have a bad taste in my mouth when it comes to them.
Yeah. No, I went to a bad one when I was younger who actually did
Okay.
hold the belief that certain mental illnesses were sin and she wouldn't work with them. She was like, basic
What?
depression, you can get rid of that yourself. And I was like, oh, okay. Where did you get your degree from? Like, that's
Yeah,
not gonna
exactly.
work.
Wow. All right. This question is, how has your illness affected your parenting?
I pray every single day for me to not have the childhood that I had. I came from a very angry upbringing. I came from an abusive upbringing. I came from a mother who was very promiscuous and brought men into the house who did things to me, and I have not gotten over that. And I pray every single day I don't give her the type of childhood that I have had.
Oh,
Now, obviously, I have mood swings. I have mood swings all the time. I find myself apologizing to a 2-year-old for yelling at her because she accidentally dropped something. I think you have to recognize that incorrect parenting is a sin too. And if
yeah.
it happens because of your mental disorder, it's still sinful. You still need to fix that. And actually, I didn't really start going to intensive therapy until after I had her. That was when I was like, okay, she can't have what I had growing up. I don't want her, I don't want to be the reason she's in therapy one day.
That's gotta be tough.
It's hard. That's where like my self-doubt comes in. Am I a good mother? Should I be raising her? Would she be better without me existing? I struggle with that.
Definitely. Well, I'll be praying for you, and I know you know my wife, and she'll pray for you too. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know you. I don't know you that as well as my wife does, but you seem like a pretty well put together person, and I think,
It took a very long time to get here.
yeah,
Very long time to get
yeah.
here.
How do you feel? I mean,
And
you're
that's
yeah,
all
you're facing
possible
love.
because I'm not going to lie. If I wasn't a Christian, I'd have probably off myself maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Like,
Oh, wow.
I see suicide as sin, and I have thoughts about
Yeah,
it way more frequently than I'm willing to admit on camera.
yeah,
But I don't do it because I think of how it is sin, it is murder. Not only that, it will
yeah.
destroy several people around me, so it is selfish too. And I'm one of those people who does believe that suicide is selfish.
Yeah.
It
I
takes
think
away
suicide's
your.
selfish too.
It is. It's saying I don't have faith enough in God to heal me, to help me, or to make my life better, and I don't care about the people around me. I just want it to be over for myself.
Exactly. I agree with
That's.
that. Yeah.
I know it's an unpopular, and it might even upset a few people watching this. I am sorry, but that's how I do see it.
I tend to think that I tend to think pretty much all sins or have a root in selfishness.
They are.
Because in all sins, you're just thinking about yourself.
Mhm.
Mm. Yes,
Oh.
that's all the questions I have.
Oh.
I was
Okay.
gonna ask. Yeah, I was gonna ask you. Um, my my mentor, like he's been a mentor to me for many years, and he's gonna watch this, and he may or may not want to contact you later to like he contacted the other people I interviewed to because he wanted to reach out and tell them how much he was touched. Would you be open with him doing that with you, or anybody doing that with you?
Yes, I'm okay with that. I have no issue with that. If you're mentally ill and you're struggling, please reach out to me. If you have someone who you know is mentally ill and you want to know how to help them, please reach out to me. If you're not either of those things and you just want to know more about my disorder, go ahead and reach out to me.
Oh, I do want to thank you for coming on and doing this show with me.
I
Yeah,
want to thank you for inviting me. I think that this is an area that needs more awareness put to it.
yeah, I think so too. I agree. Um, and everybody, thank you for watching this. I'm gonna make sure this is uploaded onto my channel so you could watch this afterwards, and so other people can see this too. I think this was a really good conversation, and like I hope that more people will watch this because, like you said, we need more awareness for mental health in the church. Um, like, anybody, please feel free to post your comments in the comment section below, and don't forget to rate and subscribe. All right, have a good night. God bless you, and deuces.
Have a good night.
What?
I was just saying, have a good night.